Hey, Bye Hi You. Welcome to episode 207 of Build Your House Yourself University. I'm your host and fellow student, Michelle Nelson, and together we'll learn the basics of home design and construction and demystify the building process so we can build well-designed, quality dream homes with or without a general contractor. Do y'all remember that episode of Seinfeld where the girl Jerry was dating looked either really pretty or really unattractive, depending on the lighting she was in? Well, that bad lighting, that's what we want to avoid, especially in our houses. Although I don't consider myself to be overly concerned with looks, I'd rather not have those spooky, ghoulish shadows on faces that can show up because of poorly designed lighting. It used to be that only models, actresses, photographers, and entertainers were aware of what type of lighting is most flattering. But in this era of selfies, social media posts, and YouTube channels, lighting our homes in a way that flatters us and our surroundings has become top of mind for even the average Joe. Now, I've done a basic lesson on the terminology and logistics of lighting in an episode called Lighting 101, and that's episode 103. But I thought it would be helpful to come up with a list of tips that we can incorporate into our homes to not only make lighting design functional, but also flattering. If we can do some relatively simple things in our homes to make us look and feel our best, then why not? I mean, we need to include lighting in our homes anyway, so why not use and place fixtures so that they shine the very best light on ourselves and our guests? Before we move on, I want to thank 4 people. N.A. Dennis 2013, Aaron P., Jason Guay, and STCDJLC. Thank you for our latest Apple Podcasts 5-star ratings and reviews. You blew me away with all the nice things you said. I was really kind of humbled by it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for telling everyone how much the show has helped you. All right, let's get into the lesson. I've composed a list of 8 tricks and tips from lighting designers and photographers that we can adapt to our homes to make the lighting more flattering. Number 1, avoid fluorescent bulbs, and that includes CFLs or compact fluorescent lamps. Fluorescent light bulbs cast a cloudy greenish haze that's unflattering. Green light, by the way, is one of the most unnatural, unflattering light colors there is, so never light an event or party with green lights. We should choose LED bulbs that cast a cleaner, more flattering light. And LEDs are much more energy efficient and long-lasting. Although CFLs are more energy efficient than old-fashioned incandescent bulbs, they're not nearly as efficient as LED lights. So avoid those fluorescent lights. Number 2, choose bulbs and fixtures with a CRI of 90 to 100. CRI stands for Color Rendering Index. The Color Rendering Index is a measurement of how well the light displays color. The closer to 100, the better, more natural, and truer colors look under the light. Light sources with a CRI of 80 to 90 are regarded as good, and those with a CRI of greater than 90 are excellent. So, for the most flattering light that shows colors that are the most natural and vivid, choose bulbs or fixtures with a CRI of 90 to 100. The closer to 100 the CRI of the light is, the more likely you and your surroundings will look clear, bright, and have the coloration you'd see if you were outdoors in the natural daylight. In other words, the closer the CRI is to 100, the better. Number 3, stick with lights that are 2700 to 3500 Kelvins. To get the most flattering lighting in your home, using the proper Kelvins goes hand in hand with using the proper CRI. Okay, pop quiz. Can you remember what Kelvins are? I talked about Kelvins in the Lighting 101 mini lesson in episode 103. Well, Kelvins are the measure of color temperature for light. It's a way to describe the color appearance provided by the light bulb, whether that's warm yellowish light or cool bluish light or a neutral white light. The lower the Kelvin number, the warmer the light will be. And the higher the Kelvin number, the cooler and bluer the light will appear. Most all lighting designers and interior designers agree that the most flattering light comes from lighting sources with a color temperature of 2700 kelvins. That's a warm, soft yellow light. But since sometimes we want more neutral, brighter, whiter light in certain areas, especially areas like a closet, a kitchen, or a bathroom, they say we can go up to 3500 kelvins, and that the light will still be pretty flattering. Although you might want to go above 3500 kelvins so you can visualize certain tasks more clearly, just know that that harsher, brighter light will likely cast a less attractive bluish hue and have more glare. Be careful of choosing bulbs based only on names like soft white, warm white, or cool white, because those names are not consistent from brand to brand. Always look at the kelvins to ensure you're choosing the color temperature you prefer. Most of us who like bright, neutral white light will probably be just fine with a bulb or fixture with 3500 kelvins. If you also use a color rendering index close to 100. So the key to a bright, neutral white light that's both flattering and functional is to not go too high on the kelvins, sticking around 3500. But also, you need to combine that with a very high CRI, as close to 100 as possible. That gives us light that's bright and white without being too harsh and glaring. You might want to buy a few bulbs with different temperatures to experiment with what looks best to you. You can also look for fixtures with dimmers that not only decrease the brightness or lumens of the light as it dims, but that also decrease the Kelvin temperature to a warmer, more flattering light as it dims. That way, you get the best of all worlds. Number 4, light your walls. Using recessed ceiling lights and lighting sources behind plants and furniture and along architectural structures like molding, have your lights reflect onto walls so that the light bounces off of the walls. The light that bounces off of walls gives a flattering indirect glow to faces and objects without any glare. That's assuming your wall color is not an unflattering color like a bright green. The light also transforms your walls into canvases that are beautiful backdrops. Place recessed lights about 2 to 3 feet from the walls so that the light is far enough away from the wall to spread and adequately illuminate the wall surface. You can also light walls with some floor lamps and sconces. Number 5, avoid placing ceiling lights directly over heads. Some designers say to completely eliminate all overhead lighting because it casts such unflattering shadows. But that's not a realistic request for the functionality of most homes. It's usually pretty difficult to avoid all overhead lights because overhead is where a lot of ambient lighting comes from. Remember, ambient light is all-purpose general lighting. Think of the A in ambient and the A in all-purpose. But to make overhead lights more flattering, you can put ceiling lights in areas that will give more flattering indirect light as opposed to unattractive direct overhead light. If we can have ceiling lights placed in areas outside of where our heads will be when we're sitting and standing in the house, we can more easily avoid unflattering overhead light. Ceiling fixtures and recessed can lights should be located either behind, beside, or in front of places where you typically sit or stand. For example, I told you in the Lighting 101 episode not to put a light directly over where you stand in front of the bathroom vanity. Overhead downlight produces large, unattractive shadows on your face. The best place to locate your bathroom vanity lights is on both sides of the mirror, at about eye level. That way, both sides of your face are lit without shadows. Long, narrow lighting fixtures will work well for family members of various heights. Lights with frosted glass or shades will further soften the light, making it even more flattering. Just make sure that you don't soften the light so much that you have trouble applying your makeup or shaving. For even better lighting, You can also add a can light or fixture above and just in front of the mirror itself. But you don't want any light directly over where you stand. With lights on the sides and above the mirror, your face will be lit on 3 sides and no shadows will form. Lighting that encircles the entire bathroom mirror is also very flattering. Those ugly overhead downlight shadows don't just happen in the bathroom. So for the most flattering light throughout the house, you should try to avoid overhead lights directly above where you sit or stand. Walking under ceiling lights is unavoidable, but try not to put ceiling lights directly over the middle of sofas, chairs, stools, or where you'll sit or stand at counters and tables. Put ceiling task lights over workstations and surfaces, not over the heads of people using those workstations and surfaces. Meaning put lights over the kitchen island itself, not above the island's stools. Place lights above countertops and the cooktop, above tables, and over the shelves and above cabinet fronts, maybe recessed under a lip of the countertop or the cabinet molding. Think through where people would stand or sit in different areas of your home and avoid lights shining directly down on the people's heads. I was originally planning to put 2 recessed lights directly over the head of our bed, but that plan has changed, since I'd rather not have my husband look over at me when I have ugly dark shadows on my face. He'd love me anyway, but since I'll sometimes be in bed with messy hair and no makeup, I'd rather spare him the ugly shadows that enhance my flaws. So instead of using recessed lights over the head of our bed, we're going to be using pendants, wall sconces, or lamps beside the bed, which we can use for reading lights. That will give us light that is both functional and flattering. We'll also have ceiling lights in the bedroom and throughout the house, but they won't be directly over heads in most cases. If you're going to have recessed ceiling lights 2 to 3 feet from your walls to illuminate the walls, make sure the majority of the seating clears those lights and that the light is not shining down on the heads of you and your guests when you're seated. This can be achieved by shifting your furniture away from the ceiling lights if possible, or placing ceiling lights above walkways and aisles, or directing the lights toward the wall instead of directly downward. Number 6. Choose more horizontal light rather than vertical light. Horizontal light spreads horizontally across a room or surface. Vertical light goes strictly up and down. Vertical light is useful for some tasks, but horizontal lighting can also be used for general ambient lighting and for certain tasks. And horizontal lighting is more flattering since it illuminates the sides of our faces, producing fewer unattractive shadows and less glare. Light from a sunset, a candle, and a fire are all examples of horizontal light, and you know how flattering that light is. Horizontal light can come from several types of lighting fixtures, depending on the direction the fixture casts its light. But horizontal light is most often seen with wall sconces, lamps, and wall washers. Wall washers are usually recessed fixtures, and they can be designed so that light bounces off the baffle or reflector surface inside the light's housing. Those wall washes direct the light out more horizontally than vertically. Wall washers are recessed lights with a wider beam spread. A bulb with a wider beam spread, one wider than 60 degrees, will cast a softer, more flattering light. A beam angle, also called a beam spread, indicates the angle or spread of light that extends across a room or surface when a ceiling light fixture is turned on. Most LED lights are available in a variety of beam angles. The more focused you want the light, the more narrow you want the beam angle. The softer and more flattering you want the light, the wider the beam angle you should choose. Limit your narrow beam spread bulbs to very tall ceilings or where concentrated task lighting or accent lighting are needed. Otherwise, stick to recessed lights with a beam spread of 60 degrees or greater. So in summary, it's great to light vertical surfaces like walls, but use more horizontal diffuse spreading light to do so. Number 7, use frosted bulbs and fixtures with lampshades. Exposed, clear light bulbs without a frosted surface produce more direct, less flattering light with glares. Frosted bulbs and lampshades help to diffuse and soften light, which makes people and objects look prettier. Pink light bulbs can also be used in specific places like side tables to make almost all skin tones look healthy and glowy. But steer clear of pink light bulbs in kitchens and bathrooms where more neutral white light is needed to help see colors and details more accurately. And number 8, apply the rule of thirds. We talked about the rule of thirds in episode 190 called Lighting for Tall Ceilings. That rule has you split the room into 3 equal balanced parts: the top, the middle, and the bottom. Furniture is in the bottom third of the room. Artwork and other wall hangings are in the middle, and the top third is often used for lighting. But lighting shouldn't only go in the upper third of the room. Putting lights in each third of the room makes a space feel brighter and allows for many sources of indirect, flattering light. To light the bottom third of a room, add table lamps, strip lighting for cabinets, and floor lamps that cast light downward. Taller floor lamps, wall sconces, lights for built-ins, and low-hanging pendants can light the middle of a room. The top third can have recessed cans, strip lighting above molding, flush-mounted fixtures, and high chandeliers and/or pendants. Track lighting and wall sconces, depending on the direction of the light, can be used to illuminate the top, middle, or bottom thirds of a room. Now, although you want all levels of a room to be lit, there can be low levels of light in some areas and brighter areas of light in other areas. You want some variation. When you're at home, you don't want to feel like you're in a brightly lit conference room where everything is lit at the same level and there's no lighting contrast. So those were the tips. If you want to support the show, subscribe to it so new episodes will go directly to your email or your podcast library as soon as they become available. Or you can help us by telling your friends and family about the show or sharing an episode through email, social media, or text. Well, that's all I have for you this week. I hope you learned as much as I did. And I hope you'll join me again next time, in 2 weeks, for the next episode of Build Your House Yourself University by You. Please remember that the purpose of this podcast is simply to educate and inform. It's not a substitute for professional advice. The information that you hear is based only on the opinions, research, and experiences of my guests and myself. That information might be incomplete, it's subject to change, and it may not apply to your project. In addition, building codes and requirements vary from region to region, so always consult a professional about specific recommendations for your home.